same block you'll find in any part of the city in downtown. It's the same type building construction, same type everything. Narrow street with limited amount of hydrants, okay? The first thing I would do is knowing that engine 2 was coming from that direction, okay? You have to assume they're coming from that direction. You have to assume they're not coming from another call or something like that. It would have been just as easy if engine 7 come down Sheridan, grabbed that hydrant, engine 2 was there, and engine 7 went nose to nose with engine 2. You could do one of two things. Approach could be Sheridan Avenue, your approach could be Clinton Avenue from engine 7's standpoint. Knowing engine 2 is coming down, knowing engine 1 is coming across, okay? Well, engine 2 is coming across Lark Street, engine 1 is coming across from Central. Engine 1 should be hitting that hydrant there. If engine 2 does not hit a hydrant, that's the hydrant they should hit, correct? You're behind them, engine 2 should feed you. That way, all three pumpers are hooked up in some respect. That leaves enough room for ladder 2 to tuck in behind engine 7, let's say, to be able to do what they have to do. That also gives ladder 1, because I'm going to assume ladder 1 is the other pump or the other truck on this box, because we're standing on Sheridan. If it was up a couple of streets, it would be ladder 4, I'm not sure. But let's say ladder 1 is coming across. Ladder 1 can set up and they can shoot to the building as well from where the silver car is sitting. The other point is this. Engine 2 is the attack pump. Ladder 2 needs to get to the front of the building. Engine 2 should be in front of ladder 2. If engine 7 comes down Sheridan Avenue, there at this point, you've got a pick of 2 hydrants. Engine 1 is only going to take one of them. If engine 1 realizes, hey, there's 2 hydrants on the corner of Sheridan, and they pass that one up there, which I'm hoping they don't, but if they pass that one, because that's only a 100-foot stretch, 125-foot stretch. If they don't, you've got 2 hydrants to pick from. You grab a hydrant, engine 1 grabs a hydrant, you're going to be closer to engine 2, you're going to have to feed engine 2. So essentially what I would do with engine 7 is I would travel down, continue down Sheridan, park where that white car is, there on the corner, and the 2 pump operators would hook up engine 2, engine 7, engine 1 would be there, they'd wrap a hydrant, stretch in. I would hope that ladder 1 would be coming from this direction here, and they would be able to finagle in. At least we would have one ladder in front of the building with a narrow street like this.
I'm surprised that engine 1 didn't come over Henry Johnson and down this way.
Right.
That's one thing we probably are going to have to listen to or see if we can, because if they come this way and then we follow right behind them this way as well, I think, you know.
The big thing is, I agree. You've got to talk with the other officers, and you've got to set up some sort of a plan.
Yeah.
You got to set up some sort of a plan. That's the problem with having centralized companies like Arbor Hill. They're all coming from the same way, so it's kind of a little parade coming over. The squad, you got Rescue 2, you got Engine 2, and you got Ladder 2, all coming from the same direction, and they're very close. That would be one of the reasons why I would think of a different approach for 7, which would not be Clinton Avenue, because I would assume that there'd be a parade of trucks on Clinton Avenue. That's why I would come down Sheridan Avenue, and when you get to the corner, if you're not really sure exactly where the number is, you just look. Someone's going to be there before you. That's what.
So there was a rescue squad, engine 2, us, truck 2 in front of the building, and rescue 2 up the street.
And rescue 2 up the street.
So we'd been in truck 2 and rescue 2.
We would have been the main pumper that the people
That
were
night,
pulling
yes.
off. We were far enough away where I think we would have had to pull the 2.5 off and pull the apartment pack off because there wasn't enough.
I guess they could have did it here too. They could have pulled 2.5 stretch to there and did the same thing that we would.
Point being is there's no way you would have gotten it with a cross.
There's a lot of talk about long cross lays. Once you start getting over that 200, 250, the rule of thumb is anything over 300 foot for an 1 3/4 cross lay, too much pump pressure and too much friction loss to start being effective and start producing effective streams. You're better off doing the 2.5, wiring it down, does a couple things. One line can supply 2. And if you've got a little 2-story walk-up like this, that's a nice, easy room and contents, I guess, for lack of a better term, type fire. A couple of 1 3/4, that Clinton Avenue fire, if you remember correctly, shitload of fire, right? And it's like, oh my God, a lot of fire. 2 1 3/4 knocked the shit out of that fire fairly efficiently. I don't want to say quickly because they were up there working for quite a while. Okay, so I don't want to say knock the shit out of it quickly.
It wasn't quick, but it was.
But it was efficient. It was very efficient. So take that same strategy, and if you put it to work here, if you drop a 2.5 in the street, do 2 1 3/4 off of that, you've got 100 foot. You can get anywhere in that little 2-story walk up, anywhere in that 2-story walk up with 100 foot of hose. Shouldn't be any problem at all. What's that building? Maybe that building is 75 foot deep, 3-4 rooms, 5 rooms on 1 floor. So that's what I would do in this situation. If you're in a situation where you don't have a hydrant, you've got to drive. You've either got to drag line to the hydrant or drive the truck to the hydrant. It's easier to drive the truck to the hydrant and drag 2.5 back, or drop 2.5 if you've got the mindset. Drop 2.5 and move to the hydrant so that it's only a 25 foot stretch. Having 2 pumpers here, right next or right behind one another, at that point you've got to do a tandem pump situation. 25 foot from the hydrant to the pumper. Then those 2 pump operators should be getting together to do a 50-foot stretch from the low side of one pumper to the low side of the other. At that point, you've got 2 pumps hooked up. I doubt in a situation like this you're ever going to need it. Then you have a 3rd pumper that's hooked up on a different hydrant. So God forbid you have trouble with this hydrant, it explodes. At least you have another pumper over there that has a secure water source that we could switch operate. As far as laddering is concerned, look at a place. Laddering is a bitch. Okay, trying to get a stick up in between all of those wires is going to be very difficult. So what are we going to do? It's going to be a lot of ground ladders, man. The ladder company has to be close. Why? Because everything they carry is heavy, bulky, and very difficult to maneuver. Not like the hose that we drag. Well, that's the other thing you can do. If you can put ladder 1 down Sheridan Avenue, okay, or at least on the corner, they could throw their stick to that roof and then hop roofs across. It's going to be a little bit of a jump down because you don't know how dished that roof is up there. Now that roof very well could be flat, but that roof could also be dished to the center.
As far as we're concerned,
you don't know.
We have our engine out of the way of the front.
I think so.
I mean, this is just lucky because we could have engine 7, engine 2, engine 1, all on 3 separate hydrants, which you're not going to get everything. I was going to have Ben. I was going to help him connect real quick, and then we were going to take.
Or it was close enough where you guys could have hand dragged 5-inch to engine 7 right to the hydrant and just left engine 2 dead in the water.
I wouldn't do that. I understand your mindset because at that point you're very independent. Get the pumpers hooked up.
Well, and 2 could have hooked up to that one because there were
2 very could have well hooked up to that one.
And then you could still run a 2.5 in an apartment.
Just, I talked to Hummel recently about this. Just so you know, I brought up that same point to him, like. Have all the pumps be wet, pump the one and then maybe run a 5-inch from one pumper to the other. And he said, no, keep it simple. He's like, go from the hydrant to that pumper you want water and then go take it up.
So we just happened to have that conversation that morning.
Yeah.
So the thought process was just take the 5-inch off the 7 because they're going to be pulling lines off of that. Hook that up to that one right there with the assistance of the pump operator on, it happened to be engine 2 at the time.
So, I mean, I see both points. I'm just telling that's his thinking on it.
You're going to have to either back up 1 or back stretch to that hydrant, or you're only going to have 1 truck hooked up.
The problem is you're depending on other people. This is the way I look. This is the way I view pump operating. That pump operator, when he's left, and that other pump operator is left at their trucks, they've got one job. Their job is to get that truck hooked up and get that pump wet. That's their job. Whether you decide as an officer that you're going to drag a line and charge it, that's not up to the pump operator. That's up to the officer of that company. So if you decide engine 7 has a fleeting thought and decides engine 2 is sitting here and you're just going to go around engine 2 and hook their truck up, okay? Not a bad move. Why? Because you've got water. But now we're depending on engine 1 to grab a hydrant and have a second pump with a positive water source. And are you willing to bet that that's going to happen? But my thought process is, if you've got 2 pump operators, that pump operator should be hooking up his pump. This pump operator here is hooking up to the low side of that truck's pump. So at that point, you're not running back and forth doing both things. He's working on his truck. You're working on your truck. You've got to make 2 connections. He has to make 2 connections. When he charges that hydrant, both trucks are wet. I understand both points of view, but if you've got to walk past a piece of apparatus that's sitting on a hydrant to hook your truck up, it's ludicrous. This is it. This is what's going to happen, fellas. If you got that hydrant, bypassed engine 2 altogether, the 5-inch went right to engine 7.
Yep.
Charge it. Yeah, everything's going great. I'm doing really well. And that 5-inch bursts in the street. Now what do? Now we've got to shut the hydrant off, unhook everything, and hook engine 2 up to it. Or unhook everything and get another piece of 5-inch to hook up engine 7. If you set this up where 2 had that hydrant and 7 had that hydrant, that's fine.
That's what I'm saying.
Okay?
But you're almost never going to have that.
You're not going to have that. And secondly, engine
I didn't
2,
see that.
theoretically, if this gets set up properly and
I don't
ladder
think 2
2
did
is
either.
in front of the building and ladder 1 is here with their stick up like this because they're hopping the roofs, you're not even going to have that hydrant. That hydrant's going to be right out of the mix.
The 2 was
Unless you
parked
decide
right
to
there
go-
But
anyway.
the
so
engine
you
would have got
didn't
there.
even
I
see
don't think
that.
2 ever saw it.
No.
Otherwise, they would have shimmied over,
Everybody
and then we just
jumped
could have
off.
nosed in right here, and then everything would have been fine. They would have had an independent water source. We would have had an independent water source.
And then who cares what engine 1 does?
then they would have
at
been
that point?
manpower.
In high speed, 2 stopped in front of the green building. We were tucked in, kind of like Adam is now, in front of the fire building. Truck 2 was coming in behind us. 2 sped up, hit the corner.
And we
Adam
pulled up.
pulled up about 50 feet, and then truck 2 took the front.
Yeah.
That was in fast motion, and then 1 came this way, and then Adam had a brief conversation with Ronnie. Do you guys have a hydrant? Hydrants are fucked in this area. And he said 1 way back there, and that was
Because
it.
we got 1 back there, and then he said, I think 2's got 1 there. I hopped out, talked to Convoy. I was like, hey, Ben goes, you know what? No, they just called it signal 15. I didn't happen to hear it. I said, all right, we'll calm down. Otherwise, I was going to say, hey, you hook up. I was going to have, I know what Hummel said, I was going to have him hook up to there, and then I was going to have him pump to me.
I think he doesn't even have to pump.
Or just low side to low side.
All you do is just low side to low side. You're not even relay pumping at that point. Just tandem pumping is all you need. I wouldn't really go with a tandem pump. If you want to decide to tandem pump, that's perfectly okay. That truck that you guys are riding around in is only as good as the weakest bolt that's in it. You could do your pump test in the morning, do everything in the morning, everything could be great. You get here at 3 o'clock in the afternoon, and that son of a bitch breaks down. That's why I'm a proponent of getting trucks hooked up, getting guys in the mindset of hooking their apparatus up. And if you got to hook 2 pieces of apparatus up to the same hydrant, then so be it. As long as that 3rd piece of apparatus can find its own, and 9 times out of 10, they can. There are those situations where they can't. My argument is if there's a catastrophic breakdown with engine 2, we can switch to engine 7 or vice versa. Mine is a little bit more complicated. There's going to be a lot more discussion between pump operators, without a doubt. There is, but
I mean,
Still fairly simple, though. It's like, hey, Ben, I'm hooking up to your low side. You hook up yours on the other
And
side.
that's right. Feed me water.
Yeah.
Let me ask you a question.
Sure.
We hit the corner, flames, smoke showing, whatever. You dropping 2.5 right in front of the building, going fire to water, or are you just going to fucking park halfway, have the pump operator work a little harder, and stretch cross
Depends on where
lays?
everybody else is.
It depends on a bunch of different things. It depends. Are you going to pass a hydrant?
Oh yeah, so you don't see it until you
If
get
there's no hydrants up there, or if let's say you pass a hydrant, I wouldn't pass the fire building. If you're the first pumper here, and you don't have a hydrant, and let's say you see fire showing in one of those windows, I would do just what we did on Elk Street. Grab the apartment, or the what we call the apartment pack, gated Y, 2.5. Okay, see ya. Go find a hydrant. You've got to trust that your pump operator is going to be able to take the truck to a hydrant.
I'm just saying that's what, 100 feet, Freddie?
It's probably 100 feet.
That's what I'm saying. Is it? That's what I'm asking. Is it worth doing that tactic, or is it worth parking the engine halfway
And then stretching back?
doing just your own thing? Pump operator goes to the hydrant. We start stretching 250 or 200.
The thing is, when it's this close, you could do either.
Okay.
You could do either, and it would work out just fine. You need to understand something. You've got a little bit of extra work. The hosman and the officer have a little bit extra work in front of the building. Why? Because you've got to unsnap, screw everything together, make sure gates are closed so that nobody ends up getting blasted with water. You've got to flake all that line out. You've got to force a door. Now you have to walk down the street 100 foot and walk all that stuff forward.
Yeah.
All the pump operator has to do, if you can drop all that stuff, if you have a sense of mind to drop all that stuff in the street, all the pump operator has to do is pull off to the next coupling, attach it to the rear gate, okay? Attach it to the rear discharge, 25-foot hookup, bang, we're all set. If you're going to do a situation like that, please do not give anybody tank water to fill up all that hose, even if it's 100 foot of hose, and then another 100 foot of 1 3/4. Take the extra minute and a half and hook up the hydrant and get yourself a positive water source. It's happened too many times, and it doesn't work out that well when somebody charges a 2.5 or 2.5 inch hose off of tank water. It's a lot of water. Just to charge that line, you're probably talking a half a tank of water. You're probably talking 150 gallons of water to charge that 2.5 and that 1 3/4 to the nozzle. Could you do it either way? Yes. It's going to be a little bit of work either way. Either way, it's either going to be a little bit of work for the pump operator or a little bit of work for the hosman and the officer. They're going to be working together as a team. In a little tiny short stretch like this, not a problem. A thing like we had on Elk Street, I'd be very honest with you.
200 feet.
Yeah, it was about 200 feet.
250.
I was keeping my fingers crossed on Elk Street that he actually ran into a hydrant.
We were we saw it. You were sitting there, you were giving a report. Said,
You guys saw the hydrant?
Should we go fire the water? You're like, yes. I said, I'll grab 2.5, and he grabbed the apartment pack, and Adam's like, I got it, it's right there.
Yeah.
And he took off.
Okay, good,
Have fun.
good. And that's just it. This is it, fellas. Within 500 feet of a block, you're going to find a friggin' hydrant. It's there.
Yep.
Very, very few streets in the
Especially-
city of Albany have no hydrants on them.
Especially in West Hill.
Right. You're
gonna at
going to
least have
find a hydrant.
One on the corner, one
You
in the
just
middle.
got to be able to trust your training and stay on point. If you don't find a hydrant, or the hydrant you find is dead, you've got to get on the radio immediately. You've got to get on the radio. You got to say, my hydrant is dead, and then at that point, another pumper has got to back you up, or that officer and that hosman have to go help their pump operator. Some way you've got to get that truck hooked up.